as a wild bird sing. You can hear hunger crying out, a sonic echo that leaves no room for doubt. All the shots bring it back to what it's not. Make a move, do we do? As the world cries tears in our hands, are we all part of a bigger plan? All the shots bring it back to what it's not. Deepest oceans, they can't betray enough. Empty spaces, time to rust and dust. There's no wonder left for us to love. No warmth or shelter, just satellites above. All the shots bring it back to what
The wait is over, and now it's finally time to start the 14th season of action here in the World GT Championship live on RaceSpotTV. And well, this is going to be a tasty opening race. It's an endurance race at Sebring International Raceway. Hello everybody, Paul Smith and Peter Mackay in the commentary booth. And well, Peter, I mean, you think of endurance racing, Sebring International is a perfect place to start off.
There is no greater combination in my mind than endurance race at Sebring. They are just a match made in heaven. They've raced here for over 70 years and it's all been about endurance racing. The annual 12-hour event is a classic, and here in the World GT Championship we've got a bit of a habit of having an amazing endurance race with some real strategical, well, gambles playing out, and to give us a thrilling race to kick off a 12-round season.
Yeah, you do mention that it is a 12-round championship, so we should be able to have a look at the schedule. So we do start off here then tonight with an endurance race at Sebring. Then next time we head on down to Virginia for Virginia International Raceway for 2 feature races, and then we finish off the North America jaunt at Road America for 3 sprint races. We then get a week off before we head to Europe. Silverstone to start off with the next endurance race, Le Mans for 2 feature races, and Barcelona for a sprint round. Then we go to the world capital of speed, really in my terms. In terms of Daytona International, it is a fantastic venue and another one of our classic endurance race rounds, and that's in September. Fuji and Red Bull Ring with Monza, Imola, and finish off with 3 sprint races at Spa-Francorchamps, all the way at the end of October. But we've got new drivers, we've got new teams involved in this championship. We see a return to a few drivers as well after having a season off. And well, we return in the commentary box as well. It is always a Monday night. It's always something to look forward to.
The world is the correct way on its axis when we've got Monday Night World GT, Paul, that's for sure. The one other addition we've got this season is some new machinery for our drivers to get their hands on. Ross McFarlane, he's made the switch to the BMW M4 GT3, which is quite interesting. He was in the Ferrari last season, Mercedes the year before, but the big talk is the Porsche 992 GT3R, a new car to the racetracks around the world and brand new here in the last couple of months on iRacing as well. And to drive, well, it's a little bit like a baby RSR, and that is no bad thing at all.
Not at all. And you get the added benefit of having ABS brakes as well, which really helps you out. And Matthew Victorino, of course, one of those drivers in the Porsche 992 GT3, and it is a splendid piece of machinery, is this car. Conditions, well, it is going to cool down in this one. Right now it's a mostly cloudy sky, 27 degrees on the track with 24 degrees in the air, and we are going into the evening here. James Bume for Altitude Esports, fresh off as a team a win at the Spa 24 Hours in the second split in iRacing the weekend. They are currently on provisional pole position. Right, as I say that, though, Ross McFarlane goes to the head of the standings. In fact, forget that, because Ethan Critchley now to the top of the standings, and that's McLaren. Now, this is a very much an unfavoured car, but around here, that could be a real rocket ship.
That's quite a lap from Ethan Critchley, quicker than former multiple champion Ross McFarlane. So Fat Atom Racing, they feel there's something in this old warhorse that is the McLaren MP412C, their first ever GT3 car. It is the representative McLaren here on iRacing. So, and yeah, there's still some old life in it.
Tremendous to see. Plus, of course, we get to roast the marshmallows on the exhaust as well.
If it was purely pyrotechnics, the McLaren would be winning every week.
Yeah, it certainly would. I mean, we've touched on it. We've got about a minute before we head to the grid. You've touched on it. The Porsche is the new shiny toy in the toy box. it seems that a lot of people have gone for that, mainly for the reason that you pointed out of how it drives. But we have got a good mix of cars on the grid. You know, we've got McLaren, BMW, Porsche, Ferrari as the top four in qualifying. There's more cars further down the field as well. The Audis get represented as well. Mercedes, AMGs. There is a good mix of cars in this series this season.
Fantastic, yeah, to have 4 manufacturers in the top 4 in the first qualifying session. I think we got it just right, and good to see Jack Sedgwick back with the Ferrari. Ethan Critchley with his hiding behind his little Lando Norris helmet there is his lucky charm, which is a roll of toilet roll. I'll explain later.
Yeah, we'll get into that in further detail. That's our pole sitter then, Ethan Critchley, one of the drivers giving us a look behind the scenes here. He's actually done really well in the world of karting as well, got himself a second place a couple of weeks ago, so congratulations to Ethan for that. And his dad Jason is going to be doing a charity swim across the channel a little bit later on in the year, so make sure you check out Ethan's social media to keep up to date with everything that he does, and of course what his father's up to as well. But with that all said, let us get ourselves on a nice relaxed talk through the starting grid. We've got a full pace lap here at Sebring, and it is Ethan Critchley who's going to be leading them away. 1.169 of a second in his Fat Atom Esports car, ahead of a 4-time champion in Ross McFarlane for Pure Sims Esports. James Bume for Altitude Esports in 3rd, with Jack Sedgwick in his venerable Ferrari in 4th place for Inex Racing. Apex 1 with Simutech for Michael Rack is on 5th. Alongside him on that 3rd row is Matthew Victorino for Impulse Racing. Axel Slijepcevic for Altitude Esports is on row number 4, and alongside him is RD Simsport. They've been really making some waves of RD Simsport recently. They find themselves with Steve Miller on 8th place. 9th then, and row number 5 for Mark Fletcher in his Altitude Esports car, one of the returning drivers to the series. And then the first of our Pro-Ams, Dennis Grabowski, the privateer, and what a time he's set. He's just under a second off of that pole position time. Tim Perry and Jack Osborne then share row number 6 in their Altitude Esports white car for Tim. Andy Archer for Fat Atom Racing, another one in the McLaren then on row number 7. Alongside him is Leif Sebastian for FreeM UK. FreeM UK having a good lineup here this season, with Phil Samways for Full Tilt V Sim Sport. Good to see Full Tilt here in the championship. Alongside him is series sponsor Jonathan Walker for FreeM UK. Make sure you do check out their wares. They're a very good provider of equipment for both the sim and real world. Daniel Sedgley for Olympus Esports then is sharing row number 9 with Marcin Rabuchek for Apex 1 with Simutech. Row 10 is Morgan Butler in his Pure Sims Esports car, with Adam Watson for Altitude Esports White. Then the first of our AMs, Sophia Ridpath for Olympus Esports, is 21st. Row number 11, alongside her is Josh Boot for Fat Atom Racing, with Rafael Drage for Semper Racing and Adam Hedgecock for Altitude Esports Blue on row number 12. Row 13 is the NJB Performance by Forca Transport for Niels Baukaj, with Chris Gooch in his Mystic Turtles Technology 1 car. Then the next row is William Guthrie in that Full Tilt V Motorsport Autosport car, because the Full Tilt V Motorsport car of Paul Webster is alongside him. Returning driver Paul Webster, good to see him back on the grid. Ben Gregory in the Boosted Motorsport car, and Michael Gray for Full Tilt V Motorsports, another of our returning drivers. Lewis Bibby is another one, Orbit Motorsport then, and the next row of the grid with Jesse Payne Wilkins for Full Tilt V Motorsports, Lars van Rijn for Altitude Esports Blue, and Chris Stevenson for Olympus Esports. Patrick Faulkner for AI Racing Summaries DCW Racing, and Nathan Healy for Full Tilt V Autosport. And the final couple of cars on the grid, Paul Clist for Olympus Esports and Dwayne Hoffman for Full Tilt V Simsports, and Matthew Loveridge for Olympus Esports rounds out our 39 car grid. We've got a number of drivers giving us an insight into their teams and their driving, and even one of those drivers racing in VR. So it's interesting to see how those drivers cope, how different drivers cope with different setups.
Yeah, there's a few different ways you can do it. To some of the drivers, like Adam Hedgecock in the top left of your shot, he goes for an ultra-wide curved but single monitor, whereas some of our other drivers, they are using 3 smaller flat monitors in a kind of wraparound shape. It's some horses for courses. The VR is certainly gives an immersive experience. Some people think it's maybe not quite the quickest and the sharpest, but I mean, it doesn't get better for immersion than that.
Absolutely, it does not. And well, I will say I've never actually tried out VR in terms of modern VR. The last VR that I tried out was in 1992 with that really old blocky 3D style. So maybe I'm just showing off my age a little bit there, Peter.
Well, I've done it once and I nearly threw up after it. It was not very pleasant. They have one at the Jim Clark Motor Museum in Duns in Scotland. I can highly recommend it to visit. A brilliant tribute to the great Jim Clark. And yeah, they've got a replica of a Lotus 25 Grand Prix car, and you get into it and you put on the VR headset and drive a few laps, and yeah, I felt positively sick afterwards.
Well, let's hope that the drivers don't end up feeling sick here, but we are getting ourselves set then through Sunset Bend. The iRacing Porsche pace car will pull off to driver's right, and Barney the Flagman is waiting ready and patient for Ethan Critchley to lead us away for an hour and 45 minutes of racing here in the World GT Championship. And already there's a Fat Atom car around, everybody else avoids it, and that's Jack Osborne, who's been into the wall. It's already drama, and he didn't even reach the start line there at this one. But as we come through in towards 3, 4 and 5, it's everybody trying to sort themselves out here, and let's hope they all remember that this is an endurance race, not one of our sprint rounds, as they come through into Big Ben and down towards the hairpin for the first time, Peter.
That's a disaster there for Jack Osborne. I mean, to get, I don't know if he got put into the wall or what, but to end up in the wall at going over the start-finish line, that's a disastrous start to the season. Less so for his teammate Ethan Critchley. When we saw on the entry list the old McLaren MP412C being chosen by Fat Atom, you thought, well, that's either going to be a disaster or genius. Certainly in the hands of Ethan Critchley, it appears to be genius.
Well, it looks that way so far, but we're only halfway round lap 1 here in this race as we carry on out of Tower Corner now for the leaders. Mark Fletcher is dropping down my timing screen, I can see, so something's happened to him out there. But the rest of the field then coming through towards the end of the lap into Le Mans for the first time. That important, crucial right-hander after the little right and left flick here. The right-hander then onto the Ullman Straight for the first time, heading towards Sunset Bend, and we are actually heading towards sunset here, Peter. In fact, I think the sun might have already gone over the horizon, so the drivers should be fine in terms of visibility.
Visibility and track temperature will get more and more kind as the race progresses, and the tyres, and one of the BMWs getting turned around there, all arms and elbows. One of the Ignia Motorsport Porsches, Mark Fletcher, getting turned around. Lots of Porsches in the field. It's clearly been a popular choice. It's I think quite a lot more friendly to drive than the previous model. It's got much more stability, which comes from the quite heavily enhanced rear aero package.
Matthew Victorino heading past James Bume, who was one of our standout performers last season, wasn't he, Peter? He really did do a good job, did James, and he's as a reward for his performances, he's been put up into the pro category, and well, he's up there in the top 4 so far, so he deserves that ranking along with Ethan Critchley as well.
Yeah, it's done on merit, and they definitely showed that they could run at the very front of races. Both Bume and Critchley, and it was here at Sebring, of course, where James Boumé got a fantastic result last season, having put in an enormous amount of preparation for the iRacing 12 Hours of Sebring special event, and it really paid off when he came to race here in the World GT Championship. That practice, even, what are we now, 4 months later, it's still paying off, clearly.
It certainly does, and there's a certain amount of the amount of preparation that you put in, it will create a certain amount of muscle memory that even months later you can rely on, really, can't you, Peter? It's just, if you've put that much time and effort into learning and practicing for one particular event.
No question. I mean, we were at Knockhill this weekend, weren't we, for the BRSCC paddock, and one of the drivers in the BMW Compact Cup said he'd done 9,000 laps at Knockhill and doesn't go away. And Jack Osborne, it was very much self-inflicted.
And that's a teammate.
So he runs into the back of somebody, drives into the pit wall, and then hits his teammate. That is a full bingo card for the worst possible start to a season.
Yeah, and that's a point, very good point you make there, Peter. It's not just the start of a race, it's the start of a season. I mean, if ever you want to have a positive start to get you off on the right foot, that is the complete opposite that Jack was able to perform there.
Bless him, only there was the pace car. That's because it's parked at the other end. But what a pity. Nevertheless, it's an hour and 45-minute race. You've got to stick in here, and you never know. You go in, get the tow, get your fast repair, and just try and push on and just gather what you can out of this race. It's a long season here in World GT. Yes, we have 12 race meetings, but at each race meeting we have several different types of racing. We have these enduros, but also we have sprints where you have 3 races in a meeting, or features where you have 2 races in a meeting. So lots and lots of racing to go. Just got to come out of here and try and limit the damage as much as possible.
As we have a look at a replay of what happened to Michael Gray, and I think that was a case of just trying to avoid rear-ending another car in front of him and bailing off to the side. Does the correct thing, waits for a gap and then pulls away. I think that will get the culinary medic seal of approval with that rejoin from Michael, but that doesn't help him in terms of performance because he's down in 36th right now.
Fastest lap of the race for Ross McFarlane, the number 127, the 4-time champion in this series, a 159.307 in his W, and he's got a really good watching brief of leader Ethan Critchley. I would think Ross has got enough pace in hand to not allow Critchley to escape, but we'll be able to just allow a little bit of fuel saving. This is the thing where Ross McFarlane is just the master of managing these endurance races, whether that be on using less fuel than everyone else or making the tyres last a little bit better, and keeping them in through the whole stint. He really is a master at that. So for Ethan Critchley, this is a super start to the season, but he will have to work hard to topple the Ross McFarlane Express train.
And here's the thing, it was a good point that you made about the McLaren here. It is quite an old car now, is this one. It's not got as complex aerodynamic package, I'm thinking in terms of especially the rear diffuser. I mean, you look at the size of the rear diffuser now on modern GT3 cars, it's absolutely cavernous. You could basically be bigger than the room that I'm in right now. It is huge, these diffusers, and the whole aerodynamics package on all of these modern GT3 cars are just so finely tuned now. I'm not saying that the McLaren's a bad car, I'm just saying it's just not had those years of development in GT racing that the BMW and the Porsche have had, with them being more recent cars.
It's like anything, it's each new model that comes out, it really develops. I tell you what, spin for Chris Stevenson coming out, and he did hit the wall there. That's a pity, coming out of Le Mans curve onto the Elmwood Straight. But yeah, I tell you what, if we get the new Ferrari 296 GT3 on iRacing, stand back. That thing is a machine, and it really has brought the game on in GT3 more than any other car in the history of GT3, in my opinion.
Oh, it is a complete step change again, isn't it? It's not just a case of an evolution. It is an entire step change in performances at Ferrari. It is sensational. I mean, you got to see it, what was it, a couple of weeks ago at Estoril. I got to see it with you out in Monza as well. It is just a stunning machine, is that. And it's one car that I would love to see come to iRacing personally.
Let's start the campaign. Let's start the campaign, because it's going to be, I mean, the waiting list for those cars is enormous. They've got a full order book for the next 2 years, so everybody wants their hands on one, and understandably it's not a cheap car. And Matthew Loveridge, what on earth has happened to his AMG? Big damage to the front, and he's taken a toe just after pit entry, so what's going on there? Has he hit the wall coming out the final corner, maybe?
I have a funny feeling that both Matthew and Ben Gregory have had a coming together, because Ben Gregory's just taken a tour back to pit road as well. So you put 2 and 2 together, it's either going to be 4 or it's going to be 755. Well, we'll get to see. And yeah, 2 of them together, bang bang into the wall. And yeah, there's significant damage you can see on Matthew Loveridge's car, and Ben obviously has that bad damage as well.
I think a little bit of space given would be very helpful there. Coming out that it's wide enough on the road there that you can give each other space and trim your line a little bit. They call that final corner the corner of 1,000 lines. Well, that means you've got plenty of alternative lines to give somebody space, and there's no space given there, and they ended up in the fence. So there you can see, yeah, they just converge. Good awareness.
Good awareness from William Guthrie, though, to be fair.
Yes.
Big lift, and I'm sure there was a big intake of breath as well when he saw that happen in front of him as well. We're just into 10 minutes into this race so far. Ethan Critchley still leads the race right now, and we've got a car off in the background, and I believe that is Lars Van Rijn. That'll be Van Rijn.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. The Altitude Esports Porsche. Oh, it's destroyed. Completely destroyed.
Well, we like this car, but the problem is that a couple of drivers seem to be wanting to abuse it a bit. The Porsche spare parts will be loving them. Will their spare parts department? They'll be gladly taking the order.
Oh, that was a very, very small mistake, but paid the ultimate price. Just dipped half a tyre onto the gravel, and coming out a Le Mans curve there. It's a kind of, we don't talk about track limits there because it's self-policing. If you break them, that's what happens.
After this weekend, I'd rather not talk about track limits. We'll get onto that later in the race. Ethan Critchley then leads this race by 3/4 of a second over Ross McFarlane, who's actually got Matthew Victorino, the Swiss driver, in 3rd place. He's gained 3 places from where he started, so a good opening to this race for the Impulse Racing driver. And then it's James Bumet and Jack Sedgwick then in 4th and 5th place. Michael Rack in 6th. And then Marcin Rebicek, fantastic start for him. He's gained 11 places in the opening 10 minutes. And, well, the Apex 1 with Simutech driver has done an absolutely sensational job. But now the difficult part, he's got nobody in front of him to give him a draft. And he's got, the best part of, what's that about, 5 seconds to Michael Rack. It's a tall order, is that, but just keep your head down.
Yeah, just keep on trucking, and might feel a bit more comfortable with a bit of clear air and be able to pull away a little bit. Marcin definitely has the most active and vocal fans in our RaceSpotTV YouTube conversation as well. Wonderful to see that. Great to see so many of you here for this first round of the World GT Championship. It's good to be back. It's brilliant to be back. I'm so pleased.
It is absolutely fantastic to be back, and I mean, we started showing this series since season 8, I want to say, or it might have been season 7 actually. No, it was season 8, and yeah, it's just every Monday night. It's just always been really good. Well, most of the time really good, yeah. But everybody has an off day, us included. Tim Perry though, He's got the focus forward right now. He is currently... Oh, where is Tim in the standings? 19th, just behind Phil Samways. And I can hear he's actually doing a bit of lifting and coasting here behind the full tilt driver.
Tim, I tell you what there, but that lift and coast, he hit the brake very, very late and used the braking performance of the Porsche. That's always a thing that the Porsche has under its belt, is fantastic braking performance and normally good traction out the corner. Maybe lacking a little bit of straight line speed, but it's I mean, the overall package is clearly fantastic. Many drivers have switched to it for this new season of the World GT Championship, and Tim in 19th overall, chasing down one of the very few Mercedes AMGs of Phil Samways.
We have a car stopped out on... oh my goodness, and that was close actually, as Perry goes to make the move, and it was I want to say that was Mello. That was, yeah, Steve Mello for RD Sim Sport dropped down the order and he was facing the wrong way. Usually, if a car is facing the wrong way, it's kind of a giveaway as to what's happened to them.
Well, it can happen for a variety of reasons. Let's get a look then at what, if we're looking at
he's pitting.
this is live pictures to go in and get some service. An hour and a half to go. Ooh, might be able to get away with having an extra stop over the course of the race. Gets clipped there by one of the Porsches.
And
hold your brakes. Gets clipped again. He has got the brake on, to be fair to him.
Not initially,
don't
but...
Don't move. Oh dear.
Well, he has moved in the right direction at least, into the runoff.
Yeah, no, you don't. The trick is you don't move
but
at all. Stay where you are. Yeah,
stay where you are. Be predictable. Yeah, it's easier to avoid a stationary object than a moving one.
Correct. Yeah, if you were playing darts and they were moving the board around, it would be a lot more difficult than it already is.
That's given me an idea for a new sport. Although I don't want to be the one holding the dartboard. James Beer
for second position, Paul.
Oh, yes.
Nacho Victorino has got past Ross McFarlane. The last time by, he was 0.2 of a second quicker than the Scotsman. And I wonder now if he's going to try to... Well, he's already pulled a gap of 0.8 of a second. So McFarlane... not able to hang on to the Impulse Racing Porsche, so Victorino heading off in hot pursuit of Ethan Critchley. This is how it was done.
And this is down towards Sunset Bend, and though the sun is going to be in their eyes here, just that little bit later on the brakes, down the inside, Ross says, okay, ooh, little twitch of the wheel, Ross mid-corner, opening up the steering there, and, well, okay, you want to go past? You can go past, but Ross, as we've said, he in the world of the World GT Championship, he is the master of the endurance races and always seems to pull out a result when you think that he hasn't got a result in him. We seem to write him off, and, well, you do so at your peril.
He has pulled so many tricks on us and on the field so many times, and particularly in these enduro races where you think, oh, maybe he's not got the pace to win tonight, and then when they come out of the pits of their final pit stops, he pops into the lead, and you think how you have to really reverse engineer it and really sit down with a pen and paper to figure it out, and then you're like, okay, but he's got that well ahead. He's almost got that kind of Alonso-esque perception where he can read a race so well and sticks to a plan, but Victorino is just opening up multiple tenths per sector right now. The gap between Farland and Victorino is already 1.1 seconds. So Victorino has just pulled away easily and is now all over the back of Critchley. Now Victorino has his decision to make here. Does he try hard and does he push on to get past Critchley? And if he does so, he has to pull away to make that worth it. Or does he throttle off, stick behind Critchley, save fuel, save tyres, etc. Until they get to the first pit stop? We should have 2 pit stops scheduled in this race. So Victorino, he's got a tactical decision to make here.
Now, if you are new to watching this series and you're thinking, hang on, Peter just said they've got 2 pit stops, but it's only an hour and 3/4 race. Well, the series admins, they limit the amount of fuel that can be held by the cars to 70% of its normal fuel capacity. And with these cars normally lasting an hour in endurance events and out in the real world, here in this race you're looking about 40-45 minutes of racing. Around this track I'd actually say more like 40 minutes, because I think you've got a bit longer full throttle, haven't you, than at some other tracks.
Yeah, it's a fairly thirsty circuit, Sebring, I would say. I mean, you got me. You think the big braking zone down into turn 7, the hairpin, that's, and then you've got a big acceleration zone out of there. So yeah, I would say it's more on the thirsty side than not. So yeah, you're going to have to be really clever to reduce that fuel consumption. An orange Ferrari, that's something that's a little bit novel there. The car number 79 of Rafael Drachaz for Semper Racing, the Polish team. Yeah, the team that we're traditional actually seeing the World Touring Car Series, correct, which is run by World Sim Racing. So it's great to see Rafael coming out and competing in the GT Series as well. Always good to see that team doing well and competing for these events, and currently finding himself down in 21st. He has gained positions, though, as Rafael, on the opening of this race. Behind is one of our newcomers as well, Nils Bukaj, behind them. So number 31 for the NJB Performance by Volker Transport, the German driver, currently down there in 22nd place behind Rafael. But at the front, still Ethan Critchley and Mathieu Victorino for Impulse Racing. And well, right now I have a funny feeling that I think we've just got our answer there, Peter. He's not wanting to sit behind, he's wanting to get to the front. Yeah, that's the decision he's made very, very clearly. The body language of that Impulse Porsche, very, very straightforward, that it's saying, yep, I want to go past, and he's really filling the mirrors and dives up the inside, and Critchley sees him and decides to say, okay, well, does he? This thinks, okay, I'll try and open the steering up and try and carry the speed. I tell you what, that McLaren carries some fantastic mid-corner speed. Ethan driving it beautifully, but Victorino gets the move done, moves ahead, but tell you what, there's Victorino driving very, very well, but having to work hard for it on these moves. His best lap of the race, he holds the best lap of the race right now, a 59 flat. Ethan Critchley and Ross McFarlane, their best is a 159.2, so the pace is close, but right now in this early stage, Victorino, he wants to get a move on.
Ethan doesn't want to give this one up, though. He wants to get back to front. The Terce flashed the headlights as well. He's wanting to get in the head of Mathieu in front. And don't forget, Ethan's a karter, so if anybody's not going to give up, it's going to be Ethan right there in that Fat Atom car.
We talked about, but you know, it's further down the field, we've seen some examples where there hasn't been very good perception, there hasn't been room given, both overtaking manoeuvres from Mathieu Victorino, both on Ross McFarlane and Ethan Critchley. Both drivers involved in those passes at that point have given fantastic racing respect. Close, hard racing, but no contact, no silly blocks, nothing like that. Really good, high quality stuff. That's what we want to see here, particularly in the pro category in the World GT Championship. But goodness, that Porsche looks so stable through the changes of direction, but does it have the grunt down the straight? Sometimes that's the reason that drivers like the McLaren, because it can be a bit of a rocket on the straight.
Ethan's not catching him up. I think that Porsche, because it does carry the speed out of the corner, it just really helps it then, because by the time that McLaren gets wound up and gets pedalling, that Porsche's just pulled that little bit of a gap enough to get away. And as you say, Peter, through these corners, it's so stable. A track that is notoriously, historically bumpy, where a certain RaceSpotTV commentator called for it to be resurfaced, which would be absolutely sacrilege if you ask me. Then, you know, it's going to benefit you. So, yeah, it was Ewan, yes. I wasn't going to name him, but yeah, Ewan, you're wrong. But that Porsche, that is exactly what you need around here, that stability, especially through the longer radius, medium to high-speed corners.
I'm still getting over. I just remembered that now. I had heard that before, that Ewan O'Leary wanted Sebring to be repaved. I mean, should we paint the Vatican pink as well while we're at it, since the Barbie movie's coming out? No, we should not. It would be a similar level of blasphemy to do that. So no, we're not doing that. I think actually the fans at Sebring would probably have a physical altercation when they were about to start the resurfacing, and it would never happen. So definitely not. Maggio Victorino now starting to just pull a little bit from Ethan Critchley now. At the front of the field, pulled 0.6 of a second last time by. The gap is now up to 0.8 of a second, with Ross McFarlane just 0.3 behind Ethan Critchley. So McFarlane just keeping close watch on things. Jack Sedgwick in the Ferrari, he's there in fourth. Now, is this the season where Sedgwick can challenge for the championship? We know he's fast enough, Paul, but can he do it over the whole season? That's still an unanswered question.
Well, I mean, yeah, oh my God, that's a heck of a dive there from Paul Webster. It's not a traditional overtaking spot either, and I think that Nils had just got caught out by Paul then, just making that move. Oh no, so it wasn't Nils, sorry, it was Rafael Drajaj, just losing out that position, although Paul has enabled the cloaking device there. A little bit of a connection issue for Paul, but he's back with us. But yeah, there was a bit of a dive, and a car going onto pit road there is number 42, Phil Sandways, and Mark Fletcher are deciding that now is the time to have your first pit stop. So getting the short run out of the way there.
Yeah, that's interesting. So doing it round the other way, sometimes we see two slightly longer runs and then a short sprint to the finish, as Phil Samways deciding to put new tyres onto that Mercedes AMG GT3, still running the thumping 6.2 litre V8, which is long out of service in the road cars that AMG produce, but wonderful that we still get it in the race cars.
Oh, and it makes tremendous noise going down a start and finish straight as well, does that car. It's one of those engines that you feel in your chest. The other one that I think of is the Bentley GT3 that M Sport used to produce.
For me, the on warm-up cycle, that Mercedes AMG GT3 it's you feel, like you say, you feel it through your chest when it's doing that. And yeah, a wonderful machine. And Mercedes announced, or Mercedes AMG announced in the last couple of weeks that they are going to stretch that car as basically as long as they're allowed to, homologation wise, maybe even with an extra Evo kit or whatever, but they do want that. It will keep and remain in service, and that is a very good thing. It will be a sad day when they leave the top level racing series around the world.
And it's been such a successful car as well. It's just got so many wins under its name in terms of big events that why wouldn't you want to carry on that competitiveness, especially when it is still a competitive car as well, is that Mercedes AMG. Drivers further down the field, got a race for 23rd and 24th, Adam Hedgecock and William Guthrie down there in the order and giving themselves some good action. That's the William, of course, driving for the full tilt V Autosport car, the Irishman. And he's up behind Adam Hedgecock, of course, the photographer, the exceptional photographer of the series for Altitude Esports Blue. And if you ever see any of the promotional screenshots that provided to the World GT Championship, well, you have to thank Lord Hedge himself.
He's the master. He's the master of cinematography, is our Hedge. Also races with a fish tank behind him. You can't quite see it in that shot, but there's a fish. He's got a fan club of fish. And some very jazzy gloves as well. I think they're a new addition.
And if they are a new addition, I would hope that they're 3M gloves as well.
I think
would
they
assume
are, actually.
So.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they are.
Yeah, they are, and a very loyal supporter of the World GT Championship now are 3M, and well, World Sim Racing as a whole, aren't they? They've been a loyal sponsor, and Jonathan Walker, who's currently 11th in this race, we've barely talked about him. He's in 11th right now. 3M, once again, for another season, coming on board. They provide not just equipment for in the sim, but also if you do the full metal racing as well. I mean, pretty much most of the British touring car grid have 3M equipment.
They are 3M gloves, Paul. I can see the logo just on the bottom of Lord Hedges' thumb. I wonder if he's got any idea of how much his anatomy is being studied here live on broadcast. Oh yeah, look at that. Look at the size of that logo on the left hand, 3M gloves. This is, well, Lord Hedges is 3M's new model.
There we go. I've been replaced, Peter.
It's a tough game. It's show business, Paul. Show business.
And I must be getting a bit too old for the modelling. Victorino, by the way, Matthew Victorino has pulled away slightly now, 1.8, 1.9 seconds out in the lead over Ethan Critchley. I think Matthew is very much going for the pull out a gap in the early stages and then hope that it's enough of a gap when it comes to the pit stops.
Yeah, that's definitely he's gone for the rabbit approach rather than the hare approach rather than the tortoise. So maybe Ross McFarlane, he's certainly a very fast tortoise, that's for sure, but he's going for the more conservative approach early, try and keep the fuel consumption as low as possible, try and keep the tyre usage as low as possible. However, Ross McFarlane's got a bit of company here in this white, blue and black Pure Sims BMW because he's got the slippy, streamlined Ferrari of Jack Sedgwick and the number 32 Porsche of James Buemi, so Ross won't have the luxury to really hang about too much. And as I say that, here comes Sedgwick. He's going to take a look, trying to stick up the inside. McFarlane gives him tons of space and tucks in behind Sedgwick, so McFarlane just fading down the leading group a little bit. He won't be able to drop in the other spaces, or he will lose the scent of the leaders.
And well, James Buemi having a little bit of a sniff to the outside of Ross, but Ross not having any of that. But I was about to point that out, Peter, so you must be reading my mind. It must be that steak pie that you fed me on Saturday night that
stuff of dreams
that's got us singing off the same hymn sheet, because I had noticed how both Jack Sedgwick and James Buemi had been slowly gaining on Ethan Critchley and Ross McFarlane. So there we go. Jack Sedgwick has made the move past one. Is he going to make the move past Ethan in that McLaren?
Oh, well, he's certainly looking very strong as the fuel load's coming off that Ferrari. That's really where Jack Sedgwick is starting to move forward. His best lap of the race, 1:58.8, but that was being bettered by Mathieu Victorino with a 1:58.6. That's really pushing on. So Sedgwick doing a great job in this Ferrari 488 GT3 Evo, the outgoing Ferrari GT3 car, now replaced in the real world by the 296 GT3. So I think time we got that 296 GT3.
I just want to point out, because somebody did ask about a comment in the YouTube comments about the balanced performance of the Porsche, saying that it's not quite fair. In the top 7, we've got Porsche leading, and it's a McLaren, a Ferrari, a BMW, a Porsche, and then 2 more BMWs. That's in the top 7. So balanced performance is always very difficult to judge, especially if you have somebody of the talent of Mathieu Victorino behind the wheel for Impulse Racing.
I think it's definitely the driver making the difference at the front of the field right now. There are tons of Porsches in the field, sure, but only Mathieu Victorino is the one who's getting that ultimate pace out of it. You know, the best lap by James Buemi is a 1:58.8. That's 0.3 of a second behind what Victorino's doing, a 1:58.5. So, yeah, you can. I think the one thing you could say about the Porsche is there's not really a weak area with it. It's balanced out in terms of it's fairly good in every area, where you might get some other cars which either they lack straight line speed or they lack stability or whatever. But at the moment, the Porsche seems a very drivable package. It's a much friendlier machine than the previous model, and I think that's why a lot of drivers have chosen it.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that one, Peter. Lars van Rijn has had an issue out there at turn number 1, and he's taken a tour back to pit road. And Chris Stevenson has had issues out there the second time tonight, and he's dropped down to 29th now. It's still a gain of positions for Chris, though, but a couple of issues for a couple of our drivers on that last lap. Victorino's putting in purple sectors right now in a number of the sectors around this track, so he's determined to get that gap out at the front and to really be able to win this race as fast as possible, rather than normally in endurance. Yes, you want to win as fast as possible, but also while saving fuel and driving as slowly as possible to look after the car.
Yeah, that's where you don't want to take too much life out of the tyre. So where are we now? We're an hour and 11 minutes to go. That means 34 minutes down. We've seen a few more drivers taking pit stop. Chris Stevenson, the number 44 BMW in the AM class, in the middle of a pit stop right now. But is that scheduled? I think it is. Yes, he's just coming out of pit lane as we speak.
In fact, talking about pit stop, we are heading towards that pit stop window now, aren't we, Peter? Because we said a 70% fuel tank, so about 45 minutes if you really got a deft foot underneath you in the finest Italian leather and your boots. Just a nice soft foot on that accelerator, whereas if you're someone like me who has lead for a foot, then use up a bit more fuel, you have to pit a little bit sooner.
It's always a fine skill. It's a very important skill for an endurance racing driver. I mean, for me, it's the one driver who's probably the best known for it is Scott Dixon in the NTT IndyCar series, and of course a very accomplished endurance racer as well. Not much he can't race quickly, is Scott Dixon, and yeah, he's renowned for his fuel saving technique. Apparently, being a right foot braker helps. Because when you're coming off the accelerator, there's that tiny little pause when you're going to hit the brake, and that tiny delta is enough to just add just with every braking zone, just save a little bit of fuel. Whereas if you're left foot braking, as soon as you're off the throttle, bang, you're pushing down the brake, and there's not quite the same gap and coast, if you like. So yeah, right foot brakers tend to be a bit better at the fuel saving.
A number of years, it reminds me of something that happened a number of years ago. I was doing some testing at Lime Rock Park in the touring car series that I used to race in, and I was racing for Ash Sutton's, as it was then, CQR team, that then went into being Pure Sims. And Ash was saying, "Oh, get your data running. Let's see how, sort of where you're gaining, where you're losing." And the first thing he said to me was, your left foot brake, that's good. So you could tell that just from looking at the data traces. Oh yeah, you're a left foot braker. They'll know exactly what they're looking for as well. Drivers of Ash Sutton's calibre, with the amount of championships he's got under his belt. But Patrick Long is a right foot braker as well. Yeah,
and he knows a thing or two about going quick, particularly around this circuit. He's won the Sebring 12-hour many times.
Well, these four are just staying as they are right now, but the problem is that they are losing time to our leader. In the last lap, it was just short of half a second difference between Victorino and Critchley on that last lap alone, so they are losing not an insignificant amount of time to our race leader right now in this group, and it's almost as if a case of Ethan is really having to fuel save and fuel manage that McLaren. As much as we like to see it, maybe it's those flames just burning off all that unburnt fuel. That's wasted fuel, that is.
It is, yeah. It's definitely wasteful for sure. So I think no matter how much fuel you've saved, when the leader is 3.7 seconds up the road, anything you have saved, I'm not sure how much of that you're going to get back, as Jack Sedgwick decides to take a very different line up the Almond Straight, trying to break the toe from those behind him.
Did he pick up a slowdown penalty? No, he didn't.
No, he can't have. He can't have.
I mean, you can pick up a slow down penalty through those corners before Le Mans. Oh, they're all pitting.
Oh, so has he got the slow down penalty and then he's going to serve it going into the pits?
Leaders in as well.
Clever.
James Bume has stayed out, so he's got an extra lap here in that Porsche. So he's moving forward. Michael Rack as well as another driver who has stayed out here. So we're in the opening pit stop cycle here now, Peter. And you would imagine that most will take tyres, but not Ross McFarlane. McFarlane stays on the ground. Ethan Critchley is taking tyres.
As is Jack Sedgwick, and as is our leader, Matthew Victorino, or former leaders. Now we've got a full-on NASCAR-esque pit party here with everyone coming in. It's like when a full course yellow at the Sebring 12 hours. Oh, son, one of the Free-M drivers missing their pit stop. Our former leader, Matthew Victorino, carries on. So McFarlane's definitely saved some time there, not to do with the tyres, but he's short-filled. So Ross McFarlane is going to go off strategy. We're going to have another classic World GT. Ross McFarlane playing a strategical card. If you were looking at a form book, usually when he goes off strategy from everyone else, it tends to work. So keep an eye on the Pure Sims BMW of Ross McFarlane.
I've got it timed at 2.7 seconds less for Ross McFarlane.
That's awful.
Yeah. Now the tyres do take around about that 30-second mark to do, which Victorino did. So is it a case of Victorino has taken on the same amount of fuel but had to wait that little bit longer for the tyres to finish off?
I wonder. No, I think Victorino will have filled up all that time that the tyres are going on. He would have been filling fuel in, I think, to be able to. There's no point. If you're at the pump anyway, you want to fill it if you can. And with the tyres going on, interesting one, very interesting one. I think now with new tyres, Victorino will be able to build. He's got new tyres on and he's ahead of McFarlane, so I think he'll be able to build a very strong advantage here with that fresh rubber.
Dwayne Hoffman is there for Full Tilt v Sim Sport on pit road in his Mercedes, as is James Bume, Michael Rack, Marcin Rabuchek, Lev Sebastian, Morgan Butler, and I do believe that Rafael Drajaj will be also heading down onto pit road for his first pit stop of the race, and yes, he does do so. So the 6 cars that were remaining to get their pit stops done and out the way, they have headed down pit road. So our leaders will be coming through, and it's a similar pit stop time for James Bume as Ross McFarlane did as well. 26.6 he did through turn 1, and James Bume, I've got him down as being in the lead now, so he's been able to get the jump over everyone. No, he hasn't, because Victorino to the inside, he gets through and Ross McFarlane follows through.
I think James Bume is just, I think he'll just decide, I'll just tuck in here. Now, did Bume take tyres? I didn't notice. I was looking at my calculator. Did we see that?
We didn't see his pit stop, but with it being a similar amount of time, he was only half a second longer than Ross, I would expect that he hasn't taken tyres.
Right, okay. In which case, he would be wise to hold on to the train if he can, but without, and if he can stay with the train on the old tyres, then switch on to the new ones at the next stop and charge when we get to the end of the race, he'll have fresher rubber. So as will McFarlane. So I think if you're mimicking McFarlane's strategy, that's never a bad thing.
Certainly not. And here's the key thing as well. James, he sat behind Jack Sedgwick pretty much all of that first stint. And then when they caught up to Ethan Critchley and Ross McFarlane, sat behind them there as well. He was able to go that extra lap over the other drivers. That coming into the second pit stop, even if he's only got that 1 lap advantage, that's still 1 lap less of fuel to look after. But here comes Ross McFarlane. He's wanting to move forward here into the lead. Oh, there's a little bit of a squeeze there from Matthew Victorino. Aggressive stuff down the Ullman Straight. Looking for the cutback is Ross, but that'll give him the outside for turn number 1. But that big BMW, it has got some grunt, but that Porsche is so stable. But look at that BMW pull up alongside. Again, they kiss doors once again. That's both sides of the cars, and even more rubbing through mid-corner. Oh, this is getting a bit aggressive up at the front here, Peter.
Very, very aggressive indeed.
Oh!
Well, there it is. Yep.
Wow.
What was going to happen? Well, I
Welcome
think
to the
there,
World
it
GT.
seemed- well, it's yeah. Thanks for coming. Yeah, Matteo Victorino. It looked like he was really struggling on cold tires here. He just didn't have the grip, and I mean, if
I
you're
don't
Ross
know how to call
McFarlane,
that.
doesn't look. For me, I think what Victorino squeezing on the straight, not cool at all, and got away with it. But then I think McFarlane getting hard into the back of somebody, you can only blame that on one driver, and it's not the driver in front, I'm afraid.
Yeah, usually
So I
in the
would put
case.
that on McFarlane myself. I hate to say it.
Usually in the case of front to rear contact, it's the car that was in the rear. It's just the case he was just carried that little bit more speed mid-corner as Ross, and he's just tagged the back.
And it was clear. I mean, he is incredibly experienced. He knows that he's on the warm tyres. Victorino is clearly struggling for grip as the tyres come in to the temperature window. And just got into the. You've got to give the space, and that's a one-line part of the circuit. And there's a great overtaking opportunity at the end at the hairpin. So yeah, here you go on the box.
Oh, there was just a tap of the brake there, wasn't there, from Victorino mid-corner? Just a tap.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, you would, so you can help the car, get the car to help it turn. But no, that for me, that's slam dunk. That's on McFarlane for me. It will require Victorino to protest it. If he does, I wonder what the stewards will say. But it seems pretty straightforward to me.
He's almost doing a wall ride there through the outside of Sunset Bend is Victorino, and he's got Michael Rack for company right now in that BMW, and again, Victorino very aggressive on the defence there. Well, he's not come to play. He doesn't want any other kids playing with his toys, does he? He wants it all for himself.
Yeah, I would think he'll be pretty frustrated and pretty hot under the collar at the moment. He'll be furious, and you can, we can only speculate, we can only give the way we see the incident, but Victorino, he'll be 100% clear in his mind whose fault it was, and he won't be blaming himself, that's for sure. So he will be livid right now. The only thing is, once the tyres come in, once the tyres heat up on that Porsche, Victorino is the fastest driver on track. We've seen that in the first 45 minutes of the race. He's just got to get his head down. The car doesn't appear to be damaged, so get his head down. He's only 9 seconds from the lead. He's got enough pace to still win this race, I believe.
I was about to say the last thing he can do, though, is let his emotions take over here.
Very true. Yeah.
He needs to go to the Jackie Stewart school of driving, doesn't he, and just not let the emotions take over.
Fantastic sideburns.
Oh, well, yeah. Which, by the way, I may say, you're coming on nicely with your sideburns there, Peter.
I'm in a growing competition with Shane Lewis for Catalonia 24 Hour.
Oh, if I was going, I would join in as well, but there you go. Michael Rack, worth pointing out, new to the championship here, is back to where he started in this race in 5th place. He qualified in 5th in the Apex 1 with Simutek driver. Of course, Simutek, one of our sponsors here in this championship. And Simutek, they even said in the World GT Championship Discord server last season, that they've been really seeing a real positive effect of being involved with the championship in terms of their products and their service. So it's great to see them back here once again with this championship, and even supporting one of the teams on the grid.
It's wonderful. Yeah, we hugely appreciated. The series wouldn't happen without the team's entrance, sponsors, etc., who get involved and give us such fantastic entertainment every morning. Stewards, they definitely have the thankless task. Well,
yes,
that's for sure.
I've been in that steward's room. Yes, it is a thankless task. No matter what decision you make, somebody isn't going to be happy.
Oh, absolutely, and there's definitely going to be that was a perfect example. We've just seen a very, very clear example of that a few laps ago.
There is no live stewarding during the race for anybody new to the series. Any stewarding decisions are done post-event with this championship. It would all get a little bit expensive if they were having to hire a number of stewards to be overseeing the race, and that's why everything's done post-race, and it just allows drivers to maybe just reflect on things at the time as well and look back and say, do you know what, I'll hold my hand up, yeah, I was a little bit silly there, and apologise. And because with this series, it is very much all about that the community and drivers driving with respect for each other as well. You may not get on like best buds with each other, but you need to respect each other on the track there, and that's what the series tries to do.
Well, that's when the series is at its absolute best, was when there is that camaraderie and respect there, and when that falls apart, then for many of our drivers, the enjoyment drops out of it. So that's really important to remember, I think, is that the respect and the camaraderie, and honestly, that applies in real life motorsport as well, in outdoor motorsport too. You know, if you look at certain championships, and even at the very highest level, somewhere like the IMSA WeatherTech Championship, there is a good camaraderie amongst the drivers. They all eat, and all the teams and drivers all eat in the same catering area, and that has a big effect on how friendly it is. Sure, not everybody's best friends, of course. You're gonna have certain drivers don't get on. That's fine. That's motorsport. This isn't tiddlywinks. But I think if you can have that camaraderie, it definitely creates a better racing series. IndyCar, I think, would be the best example. There's clearly a camaraderie amongst the drivers there.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah, absolutely. I've very limited experience of being in around paddocks in real world motorsport. I've actually been sort of like the other side of the line, so to speak. Actually getting into pit buildings and things like that. And the series that I have been there. Oh, actually, I'll stop that thought, because Victorino is stopped out on track. Something has happened to him, and he has got a meatball flag as well, I can see in session. So Matthew Victorino, there's his car, and it is very, very damaged indeed. He can't control that car. He's going to have to take a tour back to the pit lane. And well, from looking like he was going to waltz away at the front for Impulse Racing, this is high drama. Victorino is out of a chance of a win, and I would imagine that he's out this race.
It's a win gone begging. Now, what's happened here? They're coming past slower traffic. Oh, that's unlucky. That's unlucky. And you put yourself in Matthew Victorino's shoes. He's the incident with McFarlane. He was given it as good as he got, and it bit him. And that incident there, that's just, for me, Paul, that's just poor. That's just really unlucky. He thought he'd given enough room to the back marker, who was backing off. Actually, she was obviously backing off, and so the car's backing off. You would think he was through, but clearly not. He's going to be absolutely sick tonight.
Well, with this series, there is an expectation that lap traffic do assist the other cars in being able to overtake, but at the same front, it is also up to the faster car to be able to overtake in a safe manner as well. There's got to be that little bit of respect there, and has he thought that he's backing out completely and just taking his normal line? Whereas, you can't just disappear. I think with there, you play the percentages and just give the space anyway, even if you think you haven't got that overlap.
I think, and that is a corner where you can run wide, and you don't lose time, and you've got enough time to get the car pulled back over to the left, to the right hander. Let's see Dwayne Hoffman's. Is he in the throttle here?
I don't.
For me, though, this is why it's never a great idea for your lap car to just completely back out of it. And if you are going to do that, you almost need to be crawling so that there's absolutely no dubiety. That was a bit that was hesitation. It was a bit mixed message, and it was a tangle. I totally agree with your point, Paul, that you play the percentages and give the space anyway just in case, but for that will be down to experience there for Dwayne Hoffman. If you are going to back out, make sure that the cars are completely clear. And yeah, that was just all a bit messy, unfortunately. What a shame.
Well, as we carry on with our pictures further down the order, this is Tim Perry, and he's up alongside Morgan Butler. Morgan, of course, he's a feisty character of Morgan. He's got his teammate Jonathan Walker behind as well. I think we actually have got Morgan as one of our webcam drivers as well. So the BMW driver there, and RaceSpotTV commentator Chaz Draycott is, of course, the card-carrying leader of the Morgan Butler fan club as well. We found out from the years that he covered the World GT Championship with us here. So here's Tim Perry though. He's looking forward. He wants to gain positions for Altitude Esports, but Morgan, well, he will not want to give up that place.
I think Tim Perry needs to buy a new flag, because he was in a Ferrari last year, as he forgot to take it down. He needs a Porsche flag now that he's in a Porsche. Although they both do have a quite excitable stallion on the badge. If you look very closely at a Porsche badge, the Württemberg coat of arms, there is a rampant horse on it.
Yeah, there is, absolutely. But then again, Peter, your knowledge of Porsche is just a level above pretty much everybody else. I think it's only the people who work at Porsche that maybe know more than you at the moment. Well, especially with all the research you've had to do recently.
We don't want to set the nerd alert alarms off. So we'll tell you what, the whoever Freem's painter is, it looks excellent on both the BMW and the Porsche. The blue and yellow that they've gone for this year reminds me of the Rutronic colours, which is the Rutronic racing team that we see in Global Endurance Racing, who used to run Audis. They now run Porsches, and it's very similar actually to the Rutronic paint scheme. Looks $1 million, just like Freem products, but they don't cost it.
No, they're reasonably priced to Freem products. I think I've done enough selling for them to get enough a pair of gloves out of them. But anyway,
I'm yet to see them.
Yeah, these drivers, they're still carrying on in their fight here, and it's worth pointing out as well. Thank you, everybody. You mentioned it earlier, Peter. The people who are joining us here in the YouTube chat. Well, yeah, who are you supporting today? I know we've got some for Apex One. We've got Fat Atom fans in there. A number of different organisations. I know Andy Shield will be for the duration of the race and for the series completely neutral, but he does drive a Pure Sims car in other series.
Well, I'm gonna. Of course, we're completely impartial up
Absolutely.
Here in the box, but I see there's a bit of a campaign brewing to get Carl Janssen on the grid. I'm going to support that. I'm going to support the get Carl Janssen on the grid, the super Swede. Yes, Carl, consider yourself invited.
But you'll have to pay your own entry fee.
But it's true. Yeah, you remember this is a Yorkshireman and a Scotsman inviting you, so they don't expect any freebies. But we'd love to have you.
Mark Fletcher's trying to make a bit of a recovery drive here after his early dramas in the race. He was one of the drivers who took the earlier pit stop, don't forget. Took that short fuel, only 20 seconds at the pump. And he's lost 2 places in this race, up to 11th place with that move over Daniel Sedgley, who's actually gained 5 places so far in this race. Let's just quickly, whilst we're at this point of the race, let's just have a look at how things stand in each of our categories. categories. In Pro, then, it is Ross McFarlane who is the outright leader of this race. He's got a 4-second lead over James Bume right now, who's second place in the race and second place in Pro. Jack Sedgwick and Ethan Critchley, third and fourth place. They're together on track and, well, they're pretty much being best friends for most of this race. Michael Rack, fifth place, where he started. A good debut to the series if he can finish that car there. Dennis Grabowski is one of our pro-ams on my leaderboard, so I'll have to look to Axel Slipjovic for that Altitude Esports team. 7th place overall, 6th place in Pro, and then we have got in 7th place in class, 8th place overall, Marcin Rabichek, doing a sterling job there for the Apex One with Simutech team in his debut for the championship as well. Leif Sebastian in 8th with Matt Fletcher in 9th now. Morgan Butler rounding out the Pro top 10. Victorino and Mello are the two that are on pit road or out of the race in Pro. Pro-Am! Well, I mentioned his name. He is led by Dennis Grabowski right now, the privateer. He is currently 6th place overall, a gain of 4 places in this race, and he's got a number of positions over Adam Watson, who's 2nd place in Pro-Am, gained 10 places as Adam, and he finds himself 2nd place in Pro-Am, but a number of places back off of our leading Pro-Am driver. 3rd place is Daniel Sedgley, who's been involved in that little bit of a scuffle with Matt Fletcher. Andy Archer's right behind Daniel in that little bit of a battle as well, with Tim Perry about 4 seconds back off of him. Jonathan Walker in 6th place in class ahead of Lewis Bibby, Phil Samways, Chris Gooch and Rafael Jajaj rounds out the top 10 of Pro-Am. Just outside that top 10 still running Paul Webster, Michael Gray, one of our newcomers as well of Niels Bukaj in 13th place. Jack Osborne, who had the spin and issues, contacts on the opening of the race, and Ben Gregory, who's had multiple issues out there. And of course, one driver in Pro-Am out of this race is Matthew Loveridge. And then we look to our AM category, and well, they are currently led by Sophia Ridpath in that Olympus Esports car, although I think there's been an issue looking at my timing screen for 92 and 777. 92, I'll just get back to that in a minute. 92 is Paul Kliss, yeah, so he was being lapped by Michael Rack. Michael Rack has actually dropped down the order. He's down to 9th place, so from 6th down to 9th for Michael, so something's happened to him. Here's the replay, trying to get past, and wow, that's a high-speed part of the track to then have an accident like that.
That's a one almighty misunderstanding there, isn't it? Goodness. Same place where we saw Victorino. Yeah, so it is a problem area in the Sebring 12 hour. That's a common place, both in outdoor and in the sim. That is a common place where you see multi-class problems with, say, a prototype clashing with a GT car. It can happen as well with GT car on GT car. Brilliant to see Sophia Ridpath leading the way in. She had fantastic pace all of last season, but if her luck was, if there was an award for having the worst run of luck, Sophia would have walked it, because it just seemed that it would be other people's incidents and she'd be taken up in the tsunami. So this is wonderful to see her getting the job done, and she's got a pretty sizable gap. 20 seconds back to William Guthrie. So brilliant stuff from Sophia. I think sticking with the same car is a very smart choice, actually. She's in the BMW last season. Keep your setup data, keep your experience. Every single one of these cars has a very different driving character. If you go from the front engine turbocharged BMW to the rear engined and naturally aspirated Porsche, it takes quite a while to adjust. So I think this is smart from Sophia to stick with the old BMW.
Yeah, it certainly is, and she's actually up in 14th place after a gain of 7 places, so really good driving from Sophia in this race so far. 2nd place in AM is, as you mentioned there, Peter, William Guthrie, 2nd place, but 23 seconds back from Sophia. Has only got about 2 seconds between himself and Adam Hedgecock, who's third place in with this one. Paddy Faulkner, fourth place, is about 15 seconds back. Down there in 26 overall, fourth place in class. And then it's Jesse Payne Wilkins in fifth place, ahead of newcomer Chris Stevenson, who's had a couple of issues out there on track, but is still going well in sixth place. Nathan Healy, seventh place in class, ahead of Paul Clist, who we saw involved in that incident with Michael Rack. Rack and Clist both able to carry on with that one. Josh Boot is the last running car in 34th, has had 2 pit stops in this race in his McLaren. And then the other AM drivers of Dwayne Hoffman and Lars van Rijn both out of this race. So that's how things stand at the moment in your different categories. You can see they are colour-coded as well for you. So the Pro drivers, their number on our graphics is in green, Pro-Am in orange, and then blue for the AM drivers, so you can keep an eye on everything going on in this race. And certainly it has been a interesting race so far in terms of strategy, but also in terms of drama. Victorino has not gone back out on track, but I do believe is still in the session, so maybe just going over the replay and pondering what on earth happened in this race.
I think with the incident with McFarlane, I think he'll be able to say, well, not much I could have done there. That definitely he had a part to play in raising the temperature by, rubbing on the straight and things like that. That's always going to make, sharpen the intensity of the mood, which means that other incidents can happen much more easily. However, the incident was pretty clear, but then the tangle with the back marker, that's going to be, as you say, Paul, that's going to be one that's you're going to play that replay over. When he goes to bed tonight, he's going to be playing that over in his head, going, yeah, I could have done that differently. Frustrating. But hopefully, we'll see him come to fight back next week, Mathieu Victorino, because he's clearly got lots of pace underneath that Impulse Racing Porsche. Great run from Ethan Critchley. We've seen Ethan Critchley rise through the ranks. If my memory serves me right, Paul, when he joined the championship, he was an AM, and that very quickly got changed to Pro-Am. And then it wasn't long before the pitchforks were out campaigning for him to be pro. This is his first race as a pro, and he looks like he's been there for years.
Well, don't forget that the race that he won at Monza, his first race win in the championship, was whilst he was an AM. And it was not long after that race that he got made into a Pro-Am. So you got to be careful with your successes. But at the same point as well, the rate of progression that we've seen from him is only a young lad. I think most people are young compared to me now in sim racing. It's good to see that rate of progression. I've seen it so many times in various drivers through the years. I mean, the earliest one in terms of my involvement in sim racing that I've sort of seen progress through the years and been fortunate enough to commentate on was Sebastian Job. I raced against him back in 2015 in touring cars, and he was only 14, 15 years old at that time. And I've seen him go on and called him a champion at a world championship level. So, you can see that rate of progression. It's so wonderful to see that from drivers involved in sim racing and in the real world as well. You get that as well. Don't you, Peter? You have somebody who maybe you meet in the paddock once who's just brand new into whatever series, into Fiesta Juniors or Ginetta Juniors or something like that, and you just see them progress through the years.
And that is, and that's in the outdoor motor racing world, that's a very hard thing to do, because it's just a constant hungry monster for more and more money. Each rung up the ladder, you need more and more cash to keep yourself moving. The great thing about virtual motorsport is that if you're willing to put the time, and clearly someone like Ethan Critchley, he is putting the time in. Clearly, you don't get this quick without it. James Boumé is another great example. Second place right now. Same thing. puts in the time, puts in the practice, and you can make those movements. And there's no, you can do as much testing as you want. There's no, whereas in outdoor motorsport, if you want to go testing, that's a serious addition to the budget. So virtual motorsport has a real accessibility to it. And you look at drivers like Lauren Heinrich, for example, he's combined top level sim racing with his outdoor motorsport to get him to the level of driver he is. Hanchan Guven, another good example of that, where, he just couldn't afford to race, so him and his dad made the decision, well, let's go on to virtual motorsport, and that got him noticed, and the rest is history, as they say.
Well, he's a Porsche factory driver now.
Both of them, both those names I just mentioned, they're paid by Porsche to race cars now.
I think teams in Full Metal Racing have realised that there is a value in having sim racing, and to see what sort of talent there is out there. That maybe there's some people that do have talent who maybe just can't quite get a budget together to be at the highest level that they can be at, but certainly have got some talent there. And I think it really is giving these drivers an opportunity, another outlet. I mean, look at Motorsport UK. They've gone on board with the virtual Formula 4 Championship. They're now doing the Formula 4 1600 Championship as a feeder to the Formula 4 Championship that they're going to be running virtually. So they're really embracing virtual motorsport in such a big way.
And get on the train or be left behind. That's all I'll say, for certain. So car number 29, Daniel Sedgley in the Pro-Am class, sitting third in class at the moment, and he's got right behind him one of the McLarens. Now I'm going to reset my timing screen. There we go, sitting in 10th. Yeah, Daniel says he's got Andy Archer right behind for Fat Atom Racing with their McLarens, which actually appears to be a good decision. We'll see how it plays out across the course of the season, because here in the World GT Championship we have a 12-round season. We do 3 weeks in a row, then a week break, then 3 weeks in a row, and so on. But iRacing seasons are 12 weeks long, and normally after every iRacing season there's a big update, and the overall competitive mix changes, and certain cars that were quick maybe aren't so much, and then those that were nowhere, all of a sudden they gain a bit more performance. So that's the biggest step change adjustment of the year. So you might pick a car, and that's the thing. If you pick a car that is quick at the start of the season, halfway through the season, if there's a new iRacing season, iRacing update, it can all fall to bits. So 34 minutes and 20 seconds to go in this race, and we should be getting close to the next round of pit stops. And just as I say that, Paul Webster in the 888 Audi in, Michael Gray in the 273 Audi in, also, as is Adam Hedgecock from third in the AM class and his number 13 Porsche. So we're now in the window here, Paul Smith, that you can pit and now get to the end of the race.
Yeah, absolutely. We've gone past that magic 40-minute mark, haven't we? And that's just then taken us into one final stop. Be able to fill up the tank and get yourself to the end. Sorry about that, Peter. Let's get myself a drink, because it's rather warm in this room here today. I'm struggling.
I was in the middle of a full-on Belgian waffle there, and that was only when I noticed you'd gone out.
Oh, I do like a Belgian waffle.
Well-timed waffle.
I do like a Belgian waffle. There is currently a vote, by the way, on the RaceSpot chat, asking how long have people been a sim racing fan. I've just added my vote of 10 plus years myself.
Is that right? See, what would you count as sim racing? Now, there's another discussion point.
That is a very good point. I would think.
See, for me,
things like Grand Prix 3 and titles like that on the PC, I would have said was more sim racing than a game. I mean, to a degree, Forza Motorsport, not the Horizon games, or Gran Turismo, I would say, as a simcade.
Well,
I know there's going to be a lot of angry people with it. You can hear the keyboard typing away now.
So, Ross McFarlane comes into pit lane. No tyres again, Paul. This is bizarre.
Well, the track has... Well, actually, it's not cooled down that much. I'm just looking at my data here. 26 degrees track temperature. When we checked it at the start of the race, it was 27 degrees. So it's only dropped down 1 degree. But then again, it was a mostly cloudy sky anyway, so it wasn't going to be having that baking Florida sun beating down on the track. So, yeah, it was starting from a cooler point anyway as a track surface.
That it was, yeah, that it was. But no tyres. So I think we saw how Matteo Victorino, who was driving away from the field like they were in a different division, and then when he came out of the pits on new tyres, he had no grip. You think, how's that? New tyres, they must have more grip. The tyres only work once they're in a certain window of temperature, and Matteo Victorino's tyres were simply not in that window. So does Ross McFarlane believe, or has he whispered his tyres enough? He is known as the tyre whisperer. Has he been able to look after them enough where they'll last for the hour and 45 minutes and give him a sufficient lap time? But he then, when he comes out of the pits, they're still in their window in terms of temperature.
Well, it is intriguing to see how this one pans out. I mean, you're absolutely right. Yeah, he is having to race it very much on that single set of tyres. Got that temperature and pressure up already. You do lose a little bit of tyre temperature when you're in the pit stop, but not as cold as coming straight out. Well, I say not as cold as they do come out the tyre blankets. Do the tyres on GT3 cars usually. So, well, actually depends on the series, doesn't it?
No, it very much depends on the series. Yeah, very much depends. They're not allowed.
IMSA it's not, is it?
IMSA it's not. A WEC have changed. Of course, it's not GT3 yet, but they've changed. So yeah, no tyre warmer for them. Who else?
Cedric Pitts.
Creventic, you're not allowed them.
Oh, that's funny because I was stood next to a set of tyre warmers and thinking, my goodness, that's hot. Creventic.
Tyre ovens, yes.
No, they were. Oh, yeah, they were in tyre ovens. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Not the actual.
Not
warmers.
the blankets. Yeah.
No.
So
now,
Jack Cedric has been in, and Jonathan Walker, Adam Watson, and Lewis Bibian have now come into the pits for their final pit stop.
So we do the quick mathematics on the pit stop times then, on who's spent the least amount of times in the pit. Some great examples coming in. Toka 2, that's superb. Richard Simner, yeah, Austin Abel, one of our brilliant sponsors, Simutech, Richard Simner, Paul Yi, all Toka 2. I mean, any of the Toka 1 and 2, fantastic. That was the first ever game I had.
I'm gonna show my age again. Nigel Mansell's Formula 1 World Championship on the Super Nintendo, 1992.
Bravo.
That was my first racing game. And that and Senna's Super Monaco Grand Prix as well.
For me, sim racing is racing against another human being with a steering wheel. For me, that's sim racing. So you're using you're simulating the movements that you would in a real racing car. You are racing against another human being. Leader in the pit lane, James Buemi. For me, that's what it is. Whatever the platform is, frankly, I don't mind. But it's got to be against another human being and using a steering wheel and pedals.
No tyres for James Buemi once again, so he is just fuel only. And you've got Ethan Critchley on pit road as well, but he is taking tyres. That surprises me. That's both pit stops. He's taking tyres there for Ethan. Intriguing strategy there from the Fat Atom driver.
Maybe the McLaren uses its boots more.
Yeah. Yeah, it's. I mean, as we said earlier, it is an older car with maybe not as much crippled tyre or downforce as the flames come spitting out of those exhausts once again. Marcin Repicek and Leif Sebastian both owe us a pit stop here, as does Morgan Butler, Rafael Drajaj as well, Niels Bocage, and Paul Clist all owe us a pit stop yet in this race. There are still a number of drivers yet to head down to the pit lane, but you would have to say that not on track, but in terms of strategy, Ross McFarlane has got the lead in this one, has got a, I would say, not comfortable, but it's a good lead that he's got over James BMA.
Yeah, I think as soon as Victorino was out the picture, McFarlane just was able to keep the pace and just pull away from the rest of the field. It's been a pretty relentless performance from Ross McFarlane, and again, he's just played the. I have to say, I did not expect any driver to go on with on the same set of tyres throughout the whole race, but isn't that just a classic Ross McFarlane strategical play that works? It seems to work every time. Ryan
Walker has mentioned, by the way, and it is the one that I would say then sim racing for me, have actually raced against another human competitor, Race 07. I only got Race 07 because it had the World Touring Cars package on there, so that was the reason why I got that back when it was the Super 2000 Touring Cars.
Ooh, of course the Super 2000 engine that was put into the second rung of World Rallying Cars. Apparently, they were the theory at the time was that it was turbos that were making things too expensive, which was a strange one. And I'm reliably informed by someone who rallied them in the top level at the time. He said, honestly, there's no more expensive car to run than a Super 2000. The engines are like Swiss watches.
I did see on social media after the British Grand Prix, they were, as part of the British Grand Prix this year, they were having demonstration runs of Formula One cars from the past, and one of them had the 1995 Jordan car, and I've been following this person on, I can't remember the name now, so I do apologise if you are watching. I doubt you are, but in case you are, I do apologise. And I follow them on social media with the car, because that Jordan, it was one of the last of the low-nosed cars in that era of Formula One before everybody went to the high nose that the Benetton made successful. But basically, they had to stop running the car on the Friday of the Silverstone weekend because a piece of the engine decided it didn't want to behave and has caused a hole in the side of not the block. The block is fine, so it's a salvageable block, but part of the casing is now air cooled, as he put it.
Ouch.
Yes.
That's a bill incoming. Marcin Rybacik into the pit lane in his Apex 1 with Simutech BMW interestingly taking tyres for the sprint to the flag. So that's very curious, because Ross McFarlane is in the BMW as well, Paul, and historically the BMW's got a bit of a reputation for eating tyres because it's got it's a turbocharged engine. It's a relatively small capacity turbo engine, and that gives it quite a torquey, quite aggressive power delivery, and that's not good for tyre life. That's been its reputation of old, but again, Ross McFarlane breaking the norms as usual.
He is that, and is showing what you can do with a deft right foot, and taking it easy out there as through they come towards this. One of my favourite parts of this track is this, actually, it's through Fangio and then down towards Cunningham onto the brakes and throw the car in, and then you've got the real challenge then of going through Collier here and you're always turning when you hit the brake, and you're not in the perfect place. You hit the brake for tower, then you throw it in there, and it's a real sense. You get a really good sense when you nail tower right. You launch the car out of that corner and head yourself down this back section. It's just such a good feeling around this track.
It's one of my favourites, Sebring, for so many reasons. The way that it drives, the way that it races, the history and heritage of this place is immense. I mean, one year they had 5,000 people turned up, and the race had been cancelled. The race was cancelled due to the oil crisis, but 5,000 people came for the party anyway. That's my kind of racetrack. And the bridge that we're about to go underneath here with Ethan Cridgley, the original bridge here was donated by Martini and Rossi Vermouth Company.
I mean, that's a heck
Every
of a...
bump has a story.
Yes, absolutely. That left Sebastian, by the way, for 3M UK, onto pit road for their final pit stop. And then they'll be getting to go once again in their Porsche 911 GT3R, the 992 spec, the brand new car. And having got up close and personal with one of them, they are a spectacular piece of machinery. I am a fan of the 992 variety of 911 as it goes through and carries on. The street car is a wonderful looking machine in any guise. Maybe apart from the Dakar car, I'm not really a fan of that. But the new GT3 RS just looks straight off a racetrack. It's a wonderful machine. I have been fortunate, and I will say I'm eternally grateful to Porsche UK for allowing me the experience of spending a bit of time down at the Porsche Experience Centre at Silverstone, and getting a ride around in not the brand new 911 GT3 RS, but the previous model. That thing is a rocket ship. It is so impressive. Although the lead instructor did manage to lose control of it and spin it, but fortunately it was in an area where there was nothing to hit.
That would have been an awkward one to explain, wouldn't it?
Yes, especially when it wasn't even their car, it was a customer's car.
Particularly perilous, yes. Gap at the front. Ross McFarlane leads now that the pit stop cycle is complete from James Boumé by 3.4 seconds. Pace at the moment between those two drivers. McFarlane lasting by a 59 flat, 58.9 for Boumé. So Boumé ever so slightly quicker last time by. Then it's about another 6 seconds back to Sedgwick.
Would you like a 5-lap average time?
Please.
The two of them. So Ross McFarlane's current 5-lap average. I mean, where is Ross actually on track? Okay, I'm safe. I can give you this now because he's not near the finish line. 5-lap average time is a 1 minute 59.108. For James Boumé, it's a 1 minute 58.829. So James is gradually gaining, but with 19 minutes remaining, it's I think he needs to be gaining a little bit more than a tenth and a half.
Yes, he will. Yeah, the moment, I would say around 10 laps to go is the distance. So, yeah, he needs to be about 3 or 4 tenths a lap every lap to pull it in. That being said, Boumé did take, we think took tyres at the first stop. Yes, that now, looking at the pit stop times, we can try and do a bit of investigation here, Paul. So Ross McFarlane did 2 pit stops of 25.9 seconds and 25.2 seconds each. The rest all did a big pit stop at the beginning and then a shorter one at the end. That to me is, and all the others who did the big pit stop took tyres. So I think James Boumé, who stopped for 29 seconds, he did take tyres at that first stop. So coming back to the theory, I think that Boumé has slightly fresher tyres on than McFarlane. We've seen McFarlane make them work up to now, but in this last 20 minutes, is the life in McFarlane's tyres going to run out? And is Boumé going to have that little bit more rubber in hand? It's a marginal difference. It's only about maybe half an hour difference, but mind you, that's 15 laps. So let's see.
But what he's got to contend with is traffic at the worst point you can catch traffic around this track. This is the one part of the track that you do not want to catch traffic. The other part is around Cunningham, Collier and Tower, really, the bits where you are sort of limited to line. But I think James has got away with that a little bit, maybe lost a tenth or so. But yeah, it's definitely going on. But James Bume then second place overall in this race for Altitude Esports. He hasn't got a number board working at the moment. Well, he's got a blank number board, so he'll have to fix that out for the next time out. Now, here's a question for you, Peter. In the world of Full Metal Racing, normally with races that go into the night, you've got to have an illuminated number board, haven't you?
Yes.
What happens if the actual number falls off the number board?
You have to come in and get it fixed.
But the number board is still there.
Yeah, you get it. Yeah, you get a penalty, or you have to come in and get it fixed. Yeah. I don't think we're going to have that issue here. And thanks to our fantastic RaceSpotTV graphics package, brought to you by 3M, Simutech, and all our wonderful series sponsors. But the last lap, Buemi was 0.6 of a second quicker than McFarlane, and had got the gap down to under 3 seconds. So, and I think even with the traffic that he encountered there, I think he's going to be matching McFarlane at least on this lap. So we'll keep a close eye on the timesheets. It was a 1:59.3 last time by for McFarlane, a 58.7 for Buemi. It's a 59.2 as McFarlane breaks the timing beam, 59.1. So Buemi, even with that traffic, he was still quicker than McFarlane. So with clear run, Buemi, this is not over, Paul. 15 minutes to go, about 8 laps or so, depending when we cross the timing line. But Buemi is on the charge. This race is not done, and that fresher tyre on Buemi's car is going to help him for sure.
And look at how he's able to attack the curbs at certain points around that opening through that turns 2, 3 and 4 and 5 section, because they are quite high curbs there in that section, and it can unsettle the car. But that Porsche, it really is handling those curbs well. By the way, I will say that the RaceSpotTV graphics package is brought to you by our friends at ATIVO, who do a sterling job with our graphics package, and all I can say is that there is exciting times to come. They're always developing their graphics package, our ATIVO, and we're ever thankful for their support in bringing you these races as well. We've got under 15 minutes remaining here. Ross McFarlane, as he pointed out, has been slowly reeled in at the front. They're a few laps away from a group of 3 cars in terms of traffic, so they're going to have a little bit of clear running, the leaders at the moment, but they are slowly gaining on some lap traffic. So how that pans out going into the final 10 minutes, we'll have to wait and see, and you want to stick around for that. Just worth quickly pointing out as well how some of our Pro-Ams and AMs are doing. Dennis Grabowski, fantastic job in 5th place, leading Pro-Am ahead of Adam Watson, who is 10th overall. Andy Archer, 3rd place in class, as well. Tim Perry and a little bit of a door bang there for Tim Perry and Daniel Sedgley. Wow, my goodness, they're certainly playing for keeps here.
My favourite comment of the day, David Baker. Great to have you with us, David. From Pure Sims, he says, "Q catching is one thing, overtaking is another." Yeah, you know us all too well as commentators. That yes, that's we all like to quote Murray Walker from time to time, the greatest of all time in our business, and yeah. That's a fair point, but if you've been run down 2.5 seconds in 7 laps, then the overtaking is going to be, I would say, more. It's going to be difficult to defend if you've lost that time. So Buemi is running down McFarlane. McFarlane's just picked the pace up a little bit. So I wonder if he's maybe had a word from the team, or he'll of course seen the lap times of Buemi and the gap coming down. So last time by Buemi was quicker, but only by 0.08 of a second. So McFarlane responding on that lap. So Bumi, he's got to just try and get that delta down as much as he possibly can. But this is a thrilling finish here. And 12 minutes to go here in round 1 of the World GT Championship. We thought Ross McFarlane was away with it, but Buemi, he's not lying down.
Certainly not. Your best AM in the field is still Sophia Ridpath in 17th place, gain of 4 positions from where she started in the field today. And the Olympus esports team will be delighted with that performance so far. Got to keep it going to the end of this race. William Guthrie, 2nd place in AM, in 21st place overall, so a number of positions between them. And the reason why I keep on mentioning the actual position that these different people are in is because in the World GT Championship, you don't have individual point scoring for the different classes. It's just one set of points that you score for the race. So wherever you finish is the points that you take. So the fact that Sophia is in 17th and has the next place driver of William Guthrie in 21st is a good buffer for her to have. And the next best AM driver in the field is Adam Hedgecock in 24th place, 3rd place in AM. As we continue to look at that race for Tim Perry and Daniel Sedgley, but we're also keeping an eye on James Bume, who is now 2.1 seconds back from our, well, just under 2 seconds now back from our race leader with 11 minutes to go.
Yeah, last lap around, Bume took 0.3 of a second out of Ross McFarlane. I think it might have taken a little bit more again this time by, as McFarlane is coming up towards Chondabien Bend, and he'll see Buemi now getting bigger in his mirrors. You'll see the gap coming down on his data. So McFarlane, mind you, McFarlane's only lapping half a second off his best lap of the race. Which is the best lap of the race of anybody. So that it's not as if McFarlane's completely falling off a cliff. It's just Bume is really coming into it, and Bume's got the life in the tyre. You know, we saw at the first pit stop 35 minutes-ish into the race, Bume took tyres, McFarlane did not. Bume is on those same tyres he fitted at that first pit stop. McFarlane, he's on the same tyres he started the race with, so they are getting to the end of their life right now.
And iRacing a couple of seasons ago did actually make some changes to the tyre for GT3 cars so it doesn't quite last as long as it used to. So it gives a more consistent sort of grip throughout its cycle, but it doesn't have that grip for quite as long as it used to. So you've definitely got to be the tyre whisperer if your name is Ross McFarlane, and well, he will definitely not wanting to be spending any money on some new black round Pirellis, as we have got some racing between Leif Sebastian and Axel Sliptrovic as well for 6th place. So there's racing going on throughout the field, and these two, well, they're absolutely at loggerheads side by side. There's rubber doors, and Leif Sebastian just stays ahead to Axel Sliptrovic for Altitude Esports. He's not giving this one up.
Ooh, fierce stuff as Axel Sliptrovic trying to get the draft here on the 114 Porsche of Leif Sebastian. Leif Sebastian goes very defensive and then leaves a car's width on the outside. Very, very tough racing between these two Porsche 992 GT3Rs. Meanwhile, back at the front, the gap is coming down again. Last time over the timing beam, Bume took 0.4 of a second out of McFarlane and set his best lap of the race. So Bume is going trees or trophies here. He's throwing everything at this first win of the season, and what a story it would be for James Bume if he could beat Ross McFarlane. In fact, the gap's now under a second, so McFarlane definitely not on a hot lap here. McFarlane, a 4-time champion here in this series.
He got a slow down penalty. Ross McFarlane got himself a slow down penalty, and that has opened things right up at the front of the field, because there you see it then. It's Ross McFarlane and it's James Bume, and there's less than half a second between the two of them as we're into the final 8 minutes of this race. We've got about 3 laps remaining here, Peter, and well, as good old Jim Ross would say in the old wrestling commentaries, business has picked up.
Oh, business has picked up. But for McFarlane, you know, this is, and David Baker, you got ahead of us there. This is being able to overtake a 4-time champion, even on tyres that are well past their best, is still a difficult thing to do. But opportunity and risk coming up in equal measure with 3-lap cars up ahead that both of our leaders will have to negotiate. Now, that negotiation through and that picking the way through can be pivotal to the outcome of this race. Just over 7 minutes to go on the clock. And well, last lap by, that mistake from McFarlane, that slowdown penalty, cost him 1.5 seconds compared to Boumé. So that have cost him this race win. Boumé is all over the back of McFarlane. Oh, and it clips the curb on the way down towards Cunningham. Oh, that was tight there. In fact, it was down to Tower Bend, excuse me. So then it's like rush up towards Jean de Bienne now through the S's, and then it would be Le Mans curve onto the Ullman Straight, and Boumé is getting very, very close. I tell you what, Boumé is definitely close enough here, Paul, to have a go when they get up to Sunset.
I think that James can afford to be a little bit patient though as well. He's still got time in hand. There's 3 laps. He has got the pace. He has got the pace advantage, especially through the corners and off the corner, in my opinion. It's the grunt of that BMW that really helps Ross McFarlane here. And he's doing a sterling job. You don't become a 4-time champion in the World GT Championship by mistake, as they're going to come across the line once again to put another lap in the books. 6 minutes remain. And James, he just needs to look for his opportunity and take it. But there comes a point where you then have to make your opportunity rather than wait for it.
Well, I think the opportunities are going to come through traffic, and the opportunity for it to, for you to pinch that win or to end up in the fence. This is where the risk that you're prepared to take, the calculation that's going on in both these drivers' mind. The fact Atom McLaren just jumps out of the way. That's Josh Boot. He'll come back to fight another day. But Boumé right on the bumper of McFarlane's BMW. McFarlane covers the line. Boumé moving around on the braking zone, trying to make something happen. But Ross McFarlane so canny, putting the car exactly where it needs to be to make Boumé's job as difficult as possible. 5 minutes to go. World GT is back here on Monday nights with a bang.
And Ross has got another bit of help there by the lap traffic learning him by. That was Lewis Bibby just moving to one side. So the lap traffic, they're seeing it in their little relative box. Oh, there's James down the inside into Tower. Ross can carry the speed around the outside there, though. They're still going to be absolutely neck and neck as they're coming through now. Through these left-handers, sweeping left-handers, and there's James just giving that space down the inside. Has he gone deep? Has he gone deep here? Possibly. Here comes Ross McFarlane back into Le Mans, but James, he can hang it out around the outside, he can carry the speed, and he does, and he takes the lead. But Ross McFarlane, he's not giving this one up without a fight as they head down towards Sunset Bend once again. But a new race leader for Altitude Esports, James Boumé.
What a story. What a story for James Boumé. He had a great run at Sebring last season. After all that preparation for the Sebring 12-hour paid off in spades. Now he's on the cusp of winning overall in this championship, but Ross McFarlane is not going to take it lying down. Big respect to Ross McFarlane. He could have put Boumé on the grass coming out of Le Mans curve, but that is just simply not his style. Brilliant, close, hard racing. Boumé's got it for now. Can he get it home? It's going to be... I tell you what, Paul, we might end up with an extra lap here. It's going to be very, very tight whether we're 2 to go or 3 to go. And have they got enough fuel on board?
I make it 2 to go.
Okay,
but it is going to be
close.
very close. Yeah, it is going to be very close. I mean, at the line, the leader crossed the line at 1 hour, 40 minutes and 56 seconds.
Oh. Okay, so that's safe enough then.
Yeah, that should be safe enough. But yeah, it's still 2 laps though, and I think it's just through the twistier stuff that James is able to pull away with that fresher rubber that we've been pointing out, and Ross just doesn't have anything to fight back with. But the grunt of that BMW, if he can stay in the slipstream, that'll really help him going into the final lap of this race. Well, what a great opening round to the championship this has been for us. We're glad to have had you all along here to watch this one. James Bume, don't forget that Altitude Esports, they were celebrating at the weekend with the iRacing Spa 24 Hours. They won the second split of that race, and they were busy celebrating that, but a few of the drivers had to focus on this race, and well, it's paying off for them.
You bet it is. This is just a fantastic performance from this outfit, and the thing is, that's it. You know, James Bume is the guy in the car right now, and he deserves every plaudit we could give him to be able to take the scalp of the greatest driver in World GT history in Ross McFarlane when you look at results.
I think we're going to get another lap.
Yep. Yeah,
the
so we
cross
are
with
going to
2
get an
minutes
extra
4.
lap.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you are going to get an extra lap indeed. So that means that might be a lap more than the drivers expected. And that could be... Is that what McFarlane's worried about? Is he worried about fuel? He was in the pits for less time. Only marginally, but he was in the pits for less time than the rest. 0.8 of a second he spent in this entire race in the pit box more than Buemi, so less than Buemi, excuse me. So it's marginal, but it is a game of tight margins. But Buemi, this has been an incredible performance to be able to reel in an all-star of World GT, and this is the wonderful stories that this championship brings up. Just a joy. And if you're sitting thinking, oh, that new Porsche is far too fast, this is the tyre strategy. McFarlane rolled the dice. He took a risk by running on the same tyres throughout the whole race. That risk has not paid off. And Bume putting tyres on at the first stop, that invoice is, or that investment at the beginning of the race has definitely paid off later.
And also to point out to your point there, 4 manufacturers in the top 4 positions: Porsche, BMW, Ferrari, McLaren. You know, so it's not just being dominated by one mark. You know, there are multiple cars, and well, I go back to the first pit stop of James Bume. Not only in the tyre strategy, but he was able to go a lap longer than everybody else as well.
Good point. That's played a part too, I think. Is that that's given him that little bit of a strategical edge as he comes up to the timing line. We are going to go 1 lap longer. He's flashing the lights, but white flag.
Yeah, that's the lap traffic in front, I think, just to say hello. I may be the leader, but I've got a 1.5 lead, but I don't want that lead to slow up at all, because James, he realises he's in a strong position. That fresher rubber has really helped him out here, being able to pull away from Ross McFarlane. And it was just a rare mistake from Ross to get that slowdown penalty at a crucial point when they were going through lap traffic, and that just allowed James Bume the chance to close up to the back and get past, and he's got past that lap traffic. Whereas Ross McFarlane had to wait until after the hairpin to get past the lap car of Phil Samways at the end here. But, well, it's been a sensational race. It had drama with Matteo Victorino having the early lead, you know, having the pace and the early lead after the pit stop, but then struggled to get his tyres up to temperature. A little bit of contact with Ross McFarlane that I'm sure that the stewards will be looking at post-event. He then had contact with a lap car which put him out of the race. That put Ross McFarlane back to the head of the field, and he's been there for the majority of the race, but it's in the last few laps that James Bume for Altitude Esports has just got to keep it on the grey stuff here through Le Mans and down the Ullman Straight for the final time. You keep it cool now into the braking zone of Sunset Bend. Pick your line, pick your brake point, throw it into that corner, and he will be able to see the checkered flag. Barney, the flagman, is waiting patiently for him through the final corner then, and it is James Bume for Altitude Esports who wins the opening round of Season 14 of the World GT Championship. Ross McFarlane comes across his second place ahead of Jack Sedgwick. good race for him in 3rd place. Our pole sitter, Ethan Critchley, comes home in 4th place. I think he'll be a little bit disappointed with that, to be honest. His pace certainly showed some promise in the early going. Denis Grabowski, what a driver. What a drive for the debut of the privateer in Pro-Am as the fireworks go off in the background. Dennis will be the winner of Pro-Am. A great debut in the series. And Sophia Ridpath for Olympus Esports just has a few more corners to go here, Peter. And it's been a great drive for her. There's the fireworks. It's 17th place overall for Sophia. She's looking at an AM win.
An unbelievable performance from her to really just show what she showed all last season, but to get a result and to get the reward to show for it, to show for that speed that she very clearly has. Don't tell me.
It's not Sophia. Marcin Rybacek, I think, may have possibly run out of fuel. He's showing us stopped and is dropping down the order. Oh, he had a meatball flag as there's Sophia going across the line to take victory in the AM class, but he's got a meatball flag, has Marcin. And the driver who was showing promise earlier in the race until contact with back markers has a meatball flag and has not taken the checkered flag. So we'll finish bottom of the drivers on the lead lap.
That's so frustrating, and we did go as far into overtime as you can possibly get. It nearly ticked down to 0 as we were going over. The leaders were going over the start-finish line. So yeah, we got one more lap than we might have expected and calculated for. So that's really unlucky for them. And what a shame for Marcin Rybacek, who drove so well. But really, the story today of this opening round of the World GT Championship, James Boumé, to take the scalp of the greatest driver in World GT history, Ross McFarlane, that is a thoroughly deserved win, and he leads into round 2.
Well, there we are. There are the unofficial race results. Then James Boumé for Altitude Esports. 1.9 seconds it was the win in the end for Altitude Esports over the Pure Sims Esports driver, 4-time champion Ross McFarlane in 2nd place. Jack Sedgwick rounds off the podium for Inex Racing in 3rd place in his Ferrari. And then Ethan Critchley, our pole sitter, with a sensational qualifying lap, finishes in 4th place for Fat Atom Esports. He should be happy with that result. He showed some good pace early on, and I think it's just that McLaren was just showing its weaknesses out there. Your best Pro-Am, Denis Grabowski at the privateer, was then 5th place overall, ahead of Axel Slijeptrovic for Altitude Esports in 6th, Leif Sebastian for 3M UK, and Michael Rack for Apex One with Simutech in 8th place. Adam Watson was the next best Pro-Am driver for Altitude Esports White in 9th. Morgan Butler rounding out the top 10 for Pure Sims Esports. Andy Archer was 3rd place in Pro-Am, 11th place overall for Fat Atom Racing, so good outing for Fat Atom here today. Daniel Sedgley in 12th place ahead of Tim Perry. Jonathan Walker in 14th ahead of Mark Fletcher, who I think he'll be disappointed with that race, dropping 6 places in the end of that one. Sophia Ridpath for Olympus Esports, the best of the AM drivers, 16th place overall in the end. Finishing ahead of the Semper Racing driver Rafael Jajaj, Paul Webster and Michael Gray 18th and 19th, and then the 20th place, the 2nd place AM driver for the Full Tilt V Autosport driver William Guthrie. Chris Gooch then in 21st ahead of Marcin Rybacek, who finishes 1 lap down officially in 22nd. Something happened to him in the end of that race. Phil Samways in 23rd ahead of our 3rd placed AM driver for Altitude Esports Blue, Adam Hedgecock, 1 lap down, 3rd place in AM. Lewis Bibby ahead of one of our new drivers, Nils Bukaj, with Patrick Faulkner, Jack Osborne, who had the not the best of starts, shall we say, but was able to salvage a 28th place for the Fat Atom Racing outfit. Jesse Pay Wilkins and Chris Stevenson round out the top 30. 9 more drivers then on our results. Ben Gregory, the last of the drivers on the lead lap, with Josh Boot, Nathan Healy and Paul Glist 2 laps down. And those that did not finish, and this is a big one, Mathieu Victorino. Well, I think he'll be a little bit disappointed with how today's gone, but it's a long old championship is this one. Dwayne Hoffman, Lars Van Rijn, Steve Mellor, who showed a bit of promise early on, but ended up out the race, and Matthew Loveridge did not finish. James Buemi with the fastest lap of the race, a 1 minute 58.303. And well, we hope that we will be able to speak to 1 or 2 of our drivers. But Peter, I mean, what do we take from that? It's some of the new boys are starting to show their prowess.
I think there's a few drivers in the off season who have spotted that there's an opportunity to step up to the top table, and they've got that belief within themselves that they are quick enough. If they put in the time, they can join. You know, we saw Leandro Andaruti, Aaron Vazquez, etc., who were so fast last season. They're not here. You know, Alex Davidson, who is on the entry list for this season, he's not here tonight either. We will see him later in the season, but you know, that leaves an opportunity. However, you still got to beat the best. You still got to win this race tonight. You had to get past a 4-time champion in Ross McFarlane, which is, no matter what way you look at it, is never going to be easy. You know, Jack Sedgwick, in a many time race winner in this championship in the Ferrari, he finished, you know, 10 seconds behind the leader. So James, this is no fluke for James Buemi. You cannot praise this performance enough.
Yeah, it's a gain of 2 places for James, you know, so he was up there in qualifying, wasn't he? So he definitely showed the pace. Just in the virtual paddock, I will share this with you. We were talking about the one set of tyres for Ross McFarlane. He only had 30% of the tyre left at the end of that race. Once you get past a certain point, the performance just drops off a cliff edge, and I think we saw a visual representation of that happening out there for Ross.
Yeah, I think that it was a gamble and it was worth a go, but in the end it didn't pay off. And I think particularly with the BMW, it's not got a reputation for looking after its tyres. It's got a reputation for shredding them. So it was a big gamble, but still, second place. The one thing is, when we get into the sprint and the feature races, you know, Ross McFarlane, he's going to be an ever-present threat. So James Buemi and the Altitude crew, they've got the perfect start, but they're going to be straight noses to the grindstone, ready for next week.
Yeah, well, speaking of next week, it's the first of our feature rounds next time out for the World GT Championship, and it's at the Virginia International Raceway. Well, what a sensational track. From one great track in North America to another, VIR is certainly one of those great places to go to. So make sure you join us next week at 8 o'clock UK time for our first feature round of the season 2 40-minute races, and it will be absolutely sensational stuff from that track. So make sure you join us then. But from everybody here at RaceSpotTV, from myself, Paul Smith, Peter Mackay, Hugo Luis behind the scenes in production, it's congratulations to our race winners, Sophia Ridpath, Dennis Grabowski and James Buemi. Until next time, it's goodbye.